Hello and welcome. Today is the first day of October 2017, and I got a few hockey picks for today. There's some preseason games. St. Louis taking on Washington, Flyers versus the Islanders, Vegas Golden Knights versus San Jose. All I can really do in the NHL preseason is try to find out who's playing, and a lot of these have been very difficult for me to find, and yet so easy for Toronto. I'm not even going to be looking at these games. In the regular season, it'll be a much different story, of course. But I did look at all five of these games. As well, I looked at three of these four games, as one of them isn't available for betting, so I didn't look at it. And the Q, as they call it, the Quebec Minor Junior Hockey League, well, that is one that I can't bet on, so I'm not looking at that. But there's a lot of interesting selections, including how well can these young kids play on some very difficult conditions. And that's the first game. It's a tough one, and I can't bet it. Well, there's a few bets I have, but I make these notes. I'll go through the picks on here and show you how I'm finding the information on this website. I'm betting this on Cloud Bet, and there's other sites that have Canadian Hockey League as well. My feeling, my view is these less known sports in which you take can become the most profitable because they can put a lot less time and effort and into figuring out what the odds would be. Now, I'm only putting a little bit in myself, so they make the odds. I decide which ones I think are a mistake and try to capitalize on it. So let's take a look at the first game. Kingston taking on Hamilton. And this is tough. This is tough. Kingston is playing their third game and 3 nights. And they are traveling from London and Sarnia. That's going from Sarnia to Hamilton. That's about a couple-hour drive. So it's not like it's that far, but the whole point of the situation is this is a 2 o'clock Eastern game, and Kingston played last night in a night game. So travel really isn't too much of the issue, other than they're gonna have to spend a couple of the 14 or 15 hours in between games. I think it's 16 and a half hours actually, in between games that of just travel time. Now Hamilton is in a very, very bad situation, as they're also playing 3 games in 3 nights, and LS team for RRG. What did I see when I put codes in? I should understand what they mean. Last night, team for RG, regular season games. I'm not playing this game. It's Hamilton's got decent travel. I should have wrote where they came from, but they're from Barrie. Yeah, from Barrie. You don't know what backup goalies are going to be in store. And as I move into this is like preseason for me. I'm wagering this, but October is getting a feel for it. Once I can find more out, this thing would get better later on. So September was like a preseason to the preseason. This is NHL. I know the players, but you're still trying to figure out the nuances in the early season. That for that too, you want to get a few games in. I guess by a couple weeks from now, there'll be enough games in the Canadian Hockey League. No plays on the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds and the Sudbury Wolves games. Sault Ste. Marie has little low scoring. They lost twice early to Saginaw. Saginaw, this is the second time I've ever been wagering or handicapping the Canadian Hockey League. And, well, the last time I did it, Saginaw was a pretty bad team. And they still look pretty bad this year, too. Sudbury comes in with terrible defense. They've got no wins. It looks like they got no prospects for their team as well. So I'm not playing this game. Ottawa and Sarnia, I do got a wager. I'm laying a goal and a half on Sarnia plus 194. Sarnia team total, I'm taking that over 3.5 goals. Ottawa 3-3 on the road. That means they've played 3 of the last 3 games. This is a third game in 3 days. All on the road. They played last night. This is an afternoon game. They even lost to Saginaw. I mean, Flint's a good team. They're coming from Flint. So they're coming from Michigan to Sarnia. Now, Sarnia is near the border of Michigan. It's probably still a good hour plus change from Windsor, which is where they'd have to go to. This is just a terrible spot for Ottawa to be in. Sarnia are playing two in a row. I mean, so what? And they're coming off a 6-2 home win. Keyword at home. That means they played last night. They go to their normal beds and they wake up for a regular afternoon game, sort of like they would for a practice. But 2 o'clock home game, that's a breeze. That's a breeze for someone to do. They've had a decent high-scoring preseason as well, so I like where they've been coming on. So let me just show you on the site why I look at this game and how I see it. So I'm going to click on OHL on here. And what it's going to do is it's going to show me the last results, the games for tonight. So there's the games. There are some of the previous results. These are the upcoming games. So there's no games on the second and third, only one on the fourth. So same thing in the Western Hockey League. So I'm not even going to be looking on this on Monday and Tuesday. And very quickly, I'll look at the Owen Sound Sarnia game later on through the week. Here's the standings. And we got the matches played, regulation wins, overtime wins, losses in overtime, losses, the regulation goals, and four. And then the last results for a quick view, wins or loss. And then when they get shaded like that, that's in extra play, which are bets that I could very easily make at times for a game to go to overtime. That's not the case for tonight. So therefore, again, we're looking at the Ottawa Senators, 3-3, all on the road. So let's just take a look at Ottawa Senators. Ottawa 67s. Notice it's 16-27 on goals. I mean, this is just a bad team. But we can see September 29th at Saginaw, and they lost 4-0. That's just pathetic. I mean, you don't lose to Saginaw. You just don't do that. But they did. And then they go to Flint to take on the Firebirds. I've heard Flint's in Michigan. So that's 5-4. They lose in overtime. And then, of course, before this, they beat Erie. They beat Mississauga. They got their asses destroyed against Barrie. But here they are. They're playing a team in the Sarnia Sting, who, again, I say, are only playing 2 of 2. So let's just check out Sarnia Sting on here, which would place them... This is the Western Hockey League. I'll get to that in a second, actually. Okay, let's find Sarnia on the standings. They are in the Western Conference. They come in. This is their 4th game. They're coming off a win. They lost before that. They won in overtime before that matchup. They beat Kingston 6-2 last night. They lost to Kitchener and then beating Guelph 4-3 in overtime. A relatively high-scoring, choppy preseason. But this is merely just a play against the Ottawa 67s. They got terrible defense. So I need 4 goals in regulation time, too. That can't be a 4-3 overtime win. I can't get that. But I need over 3.5 goals, minus 103, plus 194, laying a goal and a half. Niagara and Peterborough. Niagara Falls, great start to the season with a 17-3 goals, 4 goal allowed differential. That is just spectacular. And Peterborough has been choppy. So therefore, I have a lean towards Niagara, but quite frankly, there is nothing I can do about that for betting. It's just, I got to be picky. I got to take good odds. The old me would have bet it, though. London versus Oshawa. The London Knights, 1-3 start to the season. I picked on them the last game. I'm going to pick on them again this game. 1-3 start to the season, and their win is against Saginaw. I mean, come on, that's just a terrible team. Wait, I think anyway. I don't even really know the sport. I could probably name you 0 players from the Canadian Hockey League successfully. I can't name you a single one right now. Anyway, in 7x games, They have scored in 7 straight games. They have scored less than 4 goals. So they have yet to score a 4 goal game in 7 consecutive, 3 or less. That is just a lack of offensive scoring. Oshawa, they're a very, very high scoring team. And in their this is their first home game in the season. So they've played 4 games to start the year. They are 2-2 in those games, so it's going to be good for them to come at home. 30 goals in their first 6 games played when you count the preseason. So that racks up to 5. And London got their butts destroyed before. Let me just show you how bad this London team really is. They are not. They're supposed to be a highly touted team, I think, but they haven't shown it this year. The London Knights, last place in their division, 4 games. They've been outscored 17-6. 17-6, they've been outscored. I actually played the Kingston Frontenacs on the money line plus 175 in that game because I knew at that point, well, they lost to the Sioux 5-1. They beat Saginaw. I mean, come on, that's Saginaw. And they did. It took overtime to beat them too. And then they played Windsor and lost 5-2. And in the preseason, I mean, they didn't really show anything spectacular in the preseason. I mean, Kingston was looking pretty good too, but I mean, this team just does not look like they're that great of a team. Last year in the playoffs, they were booted out in April, so that wasn't necessarily too good. Western Hockey League. Red Deer has played 3 games in 3 nights, all on the road. I didn't check their travel time. I don't know this part of Canada too well. They were 3-1 in the regular season, 4-1 in the preseason. So they're a good team. They are a very good team. They're coming off a loss. So they were 7-1 overall coming into last night's game. Regina is 1-2-1 or 1-3, and they've been really playing a lot of high-scoring games. I'm going to show you what I see, and I see this, and when I look at this, I'm looking to play over the total with these games for the game or one of the teams. Now I can only bet home teams over the total on this, so really weird, but I'll bet what you let me to bet, I guess. So as far as Regina is concerned, let's find them on here. I don't even know if they'd be in the East or the West. That is not cool. But that's the way it is. It is what it is. Well, I guess they're in the East because I can't find them here. They've been outscored 21-12. 5-4, 5-3, 4-3, 8-1. In the preseason, you know what? Not so much. So you gotta, and I don't really care too much about the earlier games, but the last few I kind of do. I mean, the September 15th, 16th, and what kind of backups do they have? I don't even know if how many players are actually trying to make the team in the Canadian Hockey League. I'm sure there's some. I mean, that's the way sports is. You start off, a bunch of people try to always make the team. But anyway, that is what I look for in this. There's actually an interesting play because when I look at this, Regina 1-2-1, or Red Deer, excuse me. See, Red Deer has this great record, but they did beat Edmonton twice. Edmonton is like Saginaw on the other side. And this is, again, the only second time I've ever been betting this sport. And Edmonton was just terrible. I think, 3 years ago when I did this, maybe 2-3 years ago? Maybe 4? 5? 4 years ago? I don't know. A while back. Maybe 6. I don't know. They were a bad team. Edmonton's a bad team this year. They're playing in Kootenay. I'm going to land 1.5 goals on Kootenay. Edmonton, 3 of 3 games they played. So they're doing the same thing. Now, it's not as bad because this game starts at 6 o'clock Eastern time. So we're looking at 4 o'clock Edmonton time. Not as bad as 2 o'clock local time. However, it is a bad spot to be in. Kootenay is coming off of rest. This is 100% playing this based on this. Now, they defeated Lethbridge. I just wanted to see how good Lethbridge was. They're like, man, they're an average team. So this is the notes I make for myself. 1-3 on the season. I can understand 95% of what I write for myself. 1-3 for the season. 22 goals allowed in 4 games. And they're just a bad team. So I want no part of playing this team, and I want all parts of playing whoever they're up against, especially when they're coming in as a very tired group. And yeah, they're kids, like 18 years old, 17, 19. I don't know about 19. Definitely 17 and 18-year-olds playing in this game. Maybe sub 19-year-olds. Prince George, 0-3. They've been outscored 19-3 on the season. Over the last 4 preseason games, they were 1-3 with a 10 and 16 goal forward goal allowed, which means they've been outscored 35-13. They're not that good of a team, but they're coming off of rest, though. They do have rest. Portland, 2-0 on the year, outscored their opponents 13-6 in the preseason. 34-27. I played this team total over yesterday, and you can pretty much, this was a lot of the reason why. This is a team I thought could score goals, and they did. And they played home last night. Again, they scored 6 goals. Portland are huge favorites, averaging 5.88 goals for the season. And 5 goals allowed for the season for Prince George. So a heavy lean for Portland to score 5 or more goals and increase the point total a goal in this. I expected that, I guess, because, I mean, they are just a huge chalk to win this game. And I don't even want to lay a goal and a half. And the fact that Prince George is coming off of rest, and the fact that Portland did play last night. But, I mean, come on. You play at home. After last night, Portland had rest. They played at home. They got a full night off. They play again on another night game. They're 18, 17, 19-year-old kids early in the season. There is going to be no fatigue whatsoever, like we're probably going to see with Edmonton and a couple of the other teams I've been talking about today in this video. This is the only time this season I am going to show to you how I am handicapping the Canadian Hockey League. I'm going to be looking to try to find starting goaltenders later in the month of October into November. But I don't need to now because I wouldn't even know which goalies are the pro ones, the fade ones, so on and so forth. I will only be showing selections this year if I see that there is an interest. And of course, I'm interested in still doing this, so that has to happen. And I do expect to be very successful in this. Thank you for tuning in. Take care.